Sorry I couldn't be with you, class, but as the saying goes, I have to make a living, and I was called out of the jurisdiction on short notice. But I'm happy to be discussing Sustainable Development Goal number 11. You can see from the detailed handout, points and subpoints, that this looks pretty complex. But it basically boils down to quality of life issues. Transport, sanitation, housing, job opportunities, maybe even some cultural heritage issues, and safety in disasters. Let's look at the good news and the bad news in Kenya. The good news involves a road that I'd like to use as a case study. The bad news is what global affairs would probably call democratic development and good governance. Well, let's start with the good news, which starts with some bad news. After independence, the northern part of Kenya was secessionist, didn't want to join the country. An undeclared war developed. Bandits attacked people on what passed for the roads in the north. And the roads were so bad that all the bandits had to do was wait for a military vehicle to get stuck in the mud and then blow it up. Well, this author that I've read says the road fixed a lot of those things. First of all, reducing the travel time from 3 days to 10 hours. Amazing. Connecting local communities, developing services along the route, and even a benefit to the big city of Nairobi where the meat is better because the animals don't get sick on the road to town. There's even a 2013 campaign song about the road, so it's taken on some pretty mythical proportions. Let's take a look at the benefit of cities. There is an urban bias that says people live longer, they're healthier, are better educated, they're fitter in cities, and a lot of that is true. In Kenya, though, the data may be skewed because of devolution to 47 counties with their own governors and assemblies. This may have weakened cities and prevented those democratic development and good governance initiatives that could address some of these SDG 11 goals. Well, let's look at the benefits of living in a city. There's a pull from the city, there's a push from rural areas to the city, and in Kenya there is some data, nightlight data, looking at electrical use during the night that says about 35% of GDP is generated from 6 fairly urban counties. So that's good data. What about the benefits of urban life? Oh, what is urban life? What is a city? What is an urban area? Would you be surprised if I said that in the 195 countries in the world, no more than a handful of them share any one or two criteria for defining an urban area? So for example, in Sweden, it's 200 people. Elsewhere, 2,000. Another country, 20,000. Only 30 countries in the world use economic indicators. In Japan, it's 60% of the population involved in manufacturing or other urban work. In India, it's 74% of the men. In China, historically, it was 60% of the people registered as non-agricultural workers. In Kenya, they have suddenly, and without explanation, changed their urban boundaries or changed their definitions, skewing the data yet again. Is a big area of large population that is engaged in forestry, mining, fishing, an urban area? Not according to a lot of data. What about seasonal people who move in and out? What about poor or no census data, which the World Bank has said is prevalent everywhere? What about the sudden changes in Kenya? There's one author that says the term rural shouldn't even be used. It's virtually meaningless. Now, land is a big question in Kenya. This is the democratic development, good governance issues. There is informal possession of land. There is illegal possession of land. It takes 72 days and 4.3% of the cost of a piece of land just to register it. There are 2 levels of government, as I mentioned, and there isn't an ability to borrow money, finance things, and there isn't the structure there to help develop urban areas. Let's look at the needs. 70% of the people in Nairobi walk on foot or take a minibus. They are traveling at 14 kilometers an hour, whether they are in a bus or on foot. They have $74 per month to dedicate to housing. 18% only are connected to sewers, and 60% live in slums as defined by the Millennium Development Goals. What's the benefit? Well, as another piece of our literature said, you invest in health and education and welfare and stuff, you're going to get a payback. This World Bank study said you invest $1 in water and sewage and sanitation, you're going to get an $8 payback. simply because of better health and productivity and so on. Transport may be a $50 million saving in Kenya if they can get good transport going. But there's some ambiguity. Nothing is as clear as some academic articles indicate. Urban areas can create unemployment, underemployment as well. They can also be of little benefit in what used to be called the Third World, now the Global South, because the goods and services made there may be for elites or maybe for export. People go to urban areas not only for the actual wages, but the expectations. So an urban area, ill-defined as it is both a reality and it's a fantasy by the people who go there. So we have no data. You know that if we have no longitudinal data, differing criteria and different criteria, we just don't have anything to compare some data from some communities to other data in other communities. Well, I have a solution though, and I've actually proposed this in Kenya, and it's elevated transit, either SkyTrain, gondolas, or monorails, which could also carry sewage, water, electricity, could carry goods and services and take waste out of the jurisdiction into a sanitary landfill, of which there are none in urban areas in Kenya. The solution to the housing problem, believe it or not, an 800 square foot granny flat garden suite manufactured in a factory in America or Canada can cost less than $100 a month to live in. So there are maybe some small as beautiful solutions in Kenya, but there's no big democratic development and good governance solution to the challenges in that country. Thanks for listening.